Oscar Piastri led from pole. His McLaren was dominant. The win was his to lose. But then, a single call during the safety car changed everything. McLaren left him out alone. Now the FIA has dropped shocking new evidence proving McLaren ignored data that could have secured victory. Subscribe right now, because if this is what happened in Qatar, just wait until Abu Dhabi explodes. Oscar Piastri came into Qatar with everything dialed in pole position, a McLaren MCL39 perfectly tuned for the desert circuit, and the momentum of a title fight still mathematically alive. From the first practice session, McLaren looked sharp, and by the time qualifying ended, there was no doubt, this was Oscar's race to lose. The car was quick in all sectors, he had clear track ahead at lights out, and the long-run pace looked bulletproof. There was no Red Bull, no Mercedes, no Ferrari threatening from the start. It was McLaren's game. The early laps were near perfect. Piastri launched well off the line and began executing the planned pace delta to build a buffer. His telemetry was clean, smooth throttle curves, stable brake modulation, minimal tire scrub. The first 6 laps felt like a team at the top of its game. Radio chatter was calm. Engineers sounded relaxed. Everything was pointing toward a controlled, strategic win until it all shifted with a yellow flag and a sudden dose of indecision. On lap 7, the race's first turning point arrived, a safety car triggered by debris and a midfield collision. Teams scrambled. Verstappen was called in instantly. So was Leclerc. Even Mercedes reacted. But McLaren? They held. No box call. No tire switch. They left Piastri out, a move that defied live data and shocked even neutral analysts watching on pit wall monitors. It was the kind of moment that doesn't feel like a mistake until the consequences become unavoidable. Piastri immediately began to question the choice. Did Verstappen stop? He asked. The answer was yes. A moment later, are we staying out? His engineer's response was firm but vague. Yes, stay out. Stick to Plan A. But by that point, Plan A was outdated. The dynamics had shifted. And as the FIA would later confirm in their technical bulletin, McLaren was the only top team to ignore the optimal pit window during the caution, and they paid dearly for it. Once the safety car peeled in, the tide turned. Verstappen, now on fresher rubber, began closing the gap rapidly. McLaren's lead was melting, not from poor driving, but from pure mathematics. The undercut was in motion. And worse still, Piastri had been robbed of his only weapon, control. Without the tire advantage, and with the field compressed, he was simply running a defensive race with no strategic counterattack. By lap 15, the game was already lost. The rest of the race played out like a formality. Piastri eventually pitted, rejoined behind Verstappen, and never saw the lead again. His lap times remained strong, his lines perfect, but the opportunity to win was long gone. The frustration was audible in the radio, but never in his driving. He continued to extract everything from the car, knowing full well that he was now racing against what could have been. It was less a loss and more a missed masterpiece. And now, with the FIA's newly released evidence, we have confirmation that this wasn't a racing defeat, it was a strategic implosion. The governing body's internal analysis described McLaren's decision not to pit as incompatible with prevailing data, and cited missed timing thresholds, ignored tire windows, and failure to respond to direct live telemetry. What was once considered a tactical gamble now looks like something far worse. With one race left in the season, Piastri isn't just chasing points, he's chasing redemption. As soon as the race ended, McLaren tried to justify their strategy. But just 24 hours later, the FIA's new post-race dossier laid those justifications to rest. According to the live pit wall analysis collected by the FIA's Strategy Operations Unit, every predictive model available during lap 7, including McLaren's own, showed that a pit stop under the safety car would net a 21.3-second gain compared to a green flag stop. With Verstappen, Leclerc, and Russell all reacting instantly, McLaren's decision to stay out wasn't just risky, it defied logic. Telemetry confirms it. During laps 8 to 15, Verstappen gained nearly 0.6 per lap over Piastri. That gain wasn't due to car performance, the RB21 and MCL39 were closely matched. The difference came down to tire age. Piastri, still on his original mediums, began to experience mild but irreversible rear degradation. Rear left temperatures rose beyond 108 degrees Celsius by lap 13, according to the FIA compound thermal reports. Verstappen, on the other hand, had full grip and a growing undercut margin. The outcome became inevitable. Further evidence was revealed in the FIA's Decision Impact Review, a system used to score team choices based on real-time data fidelity and race outcome. McLaren scored the lowest of any front-running team in Qatar. The report explicitly stated, decision to hold both cars during SC phase diverged from all validated strategy models. That divergence wasn't a miscalculation. It was a deliberate choice to stick with an outdated plan, one that no longer matched the evolving race conditions. Pirelli's own compound stress maps, included in the FIA Annex, revealed that the medium tire had a degradation cliff of lap 14 under Lusail's abrasive surface. Piastri hit that number exactly. At the same time, Verstappen's hard tires had just entered their prime phase. From a performance window perspective, McLaren had locked their lead driver into a tire disadvantage while the rest of the grid adapted. The FIA simulation replay confirmed, had Piastri boxed, he would have rejoined ahead and stayed ahead. Driver inputs painted an even clearer picture. Piastri's steering and throttle telemetry during the first stint was textbook. His modulation was smooth, his corner exits clean. There were no signs of overdriving or instability. The driver was managing his tires and executing with surgical precision. That level of performance, combined with pole position, is a winning formula on most Sundays. But in Qatar, it was undone by a single refusal to adapt when the data demanded it. And then came the radios. The FIA published a transcript of key team communications under the safety car. Piastri's calm, direct question, box or stay out, was met with a brief reply, stay out. Stick to plan A. But plan A was never meant to survive a lap 7 caution. The strategy had been built around an uninterrupted run to lap 17. The moment the yellow flag came out, that plan was obsolete. McLaren, however, stuck with it blindly. What this means, in no uncertain terms, is that Piastri's race was lost not because of anything he did but because of a rigid adherence to a strategy that no longer matched reality. The FIA stopped short of using the word sabotage, but their wording was blunt. McLaren, they said, compromised race outcome by failing to respond to dynamic strategic inputs. In a season where every point counts, and every decision is magnified, this wasn't just a bad call. It was a championship-altering mistake. From the very first practice session in Qatar, the MCL39 looked like a machine sculpted for the Lusail International Circuit. McLaren's aerodynamic upgrades, particularly the reshaped floor edge and rear wing beam, maximized airflow stability through high-speed corners. This meant that in the critical areas of Sector 2 and Sector 3 where corner speed trumps raw straight-line power, the McLaren was surgically precise. Data from FP2 showed Piastri was 0.3 faster through turns 5 to 9 than any other driver, including Verstappen. This wasn't just pace, it was control. Underneath the aero brilliance was a chassis tuned to absorb the unique surface aggression of the Qatari tarmac. McLaren's engineers optimized rear suspension damping to reduce tire oscillation under load, allowing Oscar to brake later into corners without destabilizing the rear. This was crucial through turn 10 and the fast right-hand sweeper of turn 12. The result was a car that rotated on command, gave confidence on throttle exit, and didn't punish the rear tires, a massive advantage in race conditions. The balance was, in Piastri's words during FP3, as good as it gets. Engineers confirmed that they hit the sweet spot between front-end bite and rear-end stability, which is rare at a track with such varying corner speeds. McLaren's ride height adjustment also played a role, slightly raised to improve airflow consistency over bumps without sacrificing too much rake efficiency. On the data overlay, the MCL39 stayed within optimal aero load through all of Lusail's fastest corners, even as other cars showed signs of bottoming or mid-corner instability. Onboard footage told the same story. Lap after lap, Piastri's inputs looked identical: minimal steering corrections, early throttle application, and no wheel spin on exits. His delta to Norris was consistent, and Verstappen, while strong in the straights, simply didn't have the same high-speed cornering advantage. The real-time overlays during qualifying showed Piastri gaining time in every section where downforce mattered, especially under braking and through long radius turns. That's where races are won on circuits like Lusail. Tire management added another layer to McLaren's dominance. Despite running mediums in intense heat, Piastri's degradation curve remained flatter than his competitors. According to Pirelli's compound performance report, his rear tire wear was 9% lower than Red Bull's at the same stint length. His lateral load consistency allowed him to preserve grip without reducing pace, a rare balance most teams spend weeks trying to find. McLaren didn't just find it. They perfected it for this race. Telemetry confirmed the advantage. Through lap 6, Piastri's lap times were falling within 1/10 of target delta, lap after lap. Verstappen, by contrast, was slightly over-pushing in the early laps, likely trying to break McLaren's rhythm. But the RB21 couldn't do it. Its traction out of turn 4 and turn 10 was inferior, giving McLaren the edge in acceleration zones. Piastri was controlling the race fuel, tires, and pace while still pulling away from a reigning world champion. That's not luck. That's performance at its peak. In essence, McLaren had delivered a car that was fast, forgiving, and perfectly matched to the circuit. Piastri had capitalized on that package with precision and maturity well beyond his years. The only thing missing was the strategic agility to seal the win. Every single metric from downforce efficiency to tire load consistency said this was McLaren's race to lose. And tragically, they did lose it. But not in the corners, and not on the straights. They lost it in the moment that mattered most on the pit wall.